Well, the head of the National Security Committee of the Iranian Parliament, Ibrahim Azizi, has told Al Jazeera that Iran is continuing negotiations, but has warned that it has set firm red lines. But we're going to discuss all of these latest developments with our guests now. In Tehran, we have Mohammad Islami, Research Fellow in Middle East and North African Studies at Tehran University. And joining us from London is Ellie Geranmayeh, Senior Policy Fellow at the European Council on Foreign Relations. Thanks so much, both of you, for joining us here on Al Jazeera. Mohammad, if I can start with you. You're in Tehran. Can you just give us an assessment of the chance that these talks could go ahead? Because as we heard, the Foreign Ministry did leave the door open for the possibility that there could be a diplomatic solution in the near future.
First of all, thank you so much for having me. I should say that in Tehran, the Iranian government and the Iranian negotiators are receiving complex messages from Trump administration and Trump team because after the Trump team accepted the 10-point proposal by the Iranians, when they came to Islamabad, their position it was totally different with their previous messages via the Pakistani mediators. And after that, when Foreign Minister Dr. Araghchi offered them off-ramp in order to go out of this crisis by stating that the Strait of Hormuz is open for every vessels. After that, the Trump administration and Trump himself, President Trump himself, sent so many negative messages to Tehran, and lots of what he tweeted was wrong, considering the facts in the negotiating table. And after that, by attacking the cargo ships of the Iranians, right now the situation is very, very complicated. We should keep in mind that the negotiations is a multi-dimensional negotiations. It is a very hard job to think about the solutions, considering the fact that there are so many points, topics, for example, the nuclear issues, the security issues, the financial instruments for both sides to think about some kind of solutions. So in Tehran, the policy makings, persons, they are thinking about if it is true by the Americans if they want a negotiation or not.
Right, yeah. As we've heard, the gaps have not narrowed since the last round of talks. Ellie, there are reports, as we heard from our White House correspondent, Kimberly Halkett, that the Pakistan Army chief has actually spoken to Donald Trump, saying the US naval blockade is the main hurdle here to talks even starting. If Trump was to actually lift that, would it be enough to get Iran to the negotiating table?
I think so, because if you look back, things were progressing on a quite relatively positive trajectory up till Friday, when President Trump announced that the blockade would remain on Iran, and then has subsequently gone on to impose that for the first time against an Iranian cargo vessel. And so if you want the conditions to have a political negotiation amidst a ceasefire on which the time is ticking, the US is going to need to take a de-escalatory step. Iran took that step on its side after the Lebanon ceasefire was announced by saying that the Strait of Hormuz from its side was going to have more freedom of navigation. The US essentially responded by doubling down on maximum pressure, and that's a recipe for blockage now.
Yeah, Mohammed, we know that the Iranian Foreign Ministry said that Iran has clearly stated its demands and won't change them, but surely this is a negotiation and it has to compromise at some point.
As I told you, all the persons, not only the Iranian negotiators, but also a team, but they were on a short notice to attend the talks. But after the Americans attacked the cargo ships in the Oman Sea, the situation is much more complicated. As far as I know, today there is a very serious debate in Tehran if the Iranians will want to attend the talks or not. It is not clear right now in Tehran.
Ellie, Iran has said it's going to respond to that US naval attack on its cargo ship. What do you think that actually realistically looks like? Are we going to see more direct military action from Iran? Or are they going to hold off and try and get to talks before they get to that point?
So I think we have a critical window at the moment ahead of that ceasefire timeline ending to see if the mediators can make a breakthrough that averts this escalatory move by Iran. But as I mentioned, for that to happen, it takes two to tango, and the US has to step down or signal some sort of a de-escalatory step on its side. If we are headed towards escalation, my sense is that Iran has a couple of options, including potential attacks against US flagged or US linked ships that are currently trapped on the Strait of Hormuz. If the ceasefire does expire without extension and we're back to a hot conflict, again, Iran could retaliate more broadly against US interests in the Middle East as well.
Mohammed, from what we've heard so far from Donald Trump, he's not really talking about de-escalation. In fact, the very opposite. He's threatened to destroy every power plant and every bridge in Iran if no deal is reached. How seriously does Tehran actually take those threats?
You know, from the very first hours of this conflict in Tehran, it is obvious that Donald Trump is not following any specific strategy toward the war. In every day, he's declaring another object for the war, and right now he's threatening the Iranians and also the Iranian nations by bombing the infrastructure. So I think that in Iran, everybody is waiting for the war to be continued because right now the situation in Tehran and it is very complicated. The people and also the policymakers, they do not trust the Americans. And the question is, if there is a real political will in the White House in order to solve the problem diplomatically.
Ellie, just finally, can you just give us a sense from what you understand of inside Iran, who's actually making the major decisions at this point in time? Is it the Supreme Leader or is it the IRGC that's taking the lead at this point in time?
So look, I do think that the decision-making is still in the old-fashioned consensus-building format. There's been a lot of attempts over the past few days to muddy the waters and say that there are major divisions emerging in the Iranian system. But my sense is that the type of high-level direct meetings that took place in Pakistan last week, which had the backing of a massive delegation from the Iranian side coming to Pakistan, indicates that the system is at least trying to present unity and consensus in these decisions. My sense is that, for example, Foreign Minister Araghchi's social media messages about the Strait of Hormuz being opened did have support, but essentially what undermined that was President Trump's follow-up announcing that the blockade on the American side would continue, and that is what caused the more firm messaging from Tehran on the Strait being closed again. So right now, I do think that there is consensus building, but without doubt, the security establishment, the military establishment has a bigger voice because we are in wartime conditions in Iran.
Thank you both so much. That is a Mohammad Islami Research Fellow in Middle East and North African Studies at Tehran University, and Ellie Geranmayeh, Senior Policy Fellow at the European Council on Foreign Relations. Thanks again.